So David, can you tell me about the website that you have where you've got all the books stored that people can access?
You want to know the web address?
Yes, please.
It's oldmoors.org.uk. And you've got three choices there to either find the Facebook group, there's a private group just for information, and then there's the library. Mm-hmm. And you click on that and it will take you into a subdomain, which is exclusively the library, which is a whole series of subjects, as you say, from astrology all the way down to Zionism, Wicca, Druidism, all the different aspects and things that could be termed pagan. Mm-hmm. There's books there, what I felt to be the best of the best that are freely available, because some books are still, you have to buy.
Yeah.
I can't release those out there. These are all books which are tried and tested over decades, even some centuries once, mm-hmm. which people had used and found useful. It's not the be-all or the end-all of that particular subject, but it's sufficient enough to get you started to find a right path for yourself. That this is for me, that's not. And to move forward.
Give you a taster.
A taster, to get you started. Mm-hmm. To see the first stepping stone to get you moving in a direction which you find works best for you.
Yeah. So I found certainly the library system has been quite good if you want to order books and test out, especially the more expensive ones. They will order books in for you, so you can actually see if it's worth you purchasing a particular book, because that can be another consideration. When a book's £50 to £60 and you've not had the opportunity to open any pages because they're all online, and they don't all do the look inside that you sometimes get on Amazon.
The one mistake that people make when writing literature in some form of paganism, whatever variant it is charging money. Mm-hmm. There is no such thing as a rich witch. The two are incompatible, because the more you understand about the nature of paganism, the way the natural world works, the less wealthy you're going to be financially, mm-hmm. the more your wealth is knowledge.
Yeah.
So books that tend to be sort of 40, 50, 60 pound at a time, I tend to look at those more for the fluffy bunny kind. Mm-hmm. Because the real witch, the real vulva, the real shaman probably wouldn't touch it with a barge pole, because there's nothing there that's relevant.
Yeah.
A lot of the original texts were done with the idea that you already had pre-knowledge of something. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to describe that, because that's something that people have to figure out to begin with. But there's one big problem, particularly when casting a circle. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, I'll describe that later on when we do the moods, but that's the first hurdle.
Yeah.
That's the challenge, to accept a natural fact above what you're told. Mm-hmm. And again, it's accepting that what you've been told and what you've accepted to be true, you are wrong. Get past that first hurdle, mm-hmm. you're on your way.
Yeah.
Suddenly everything else comes a lot easier.
So do you have any books that you would recommend from what you have on the Old Moors site that people who may be curious about Hermetic science, for example?
I think the sort of, oh good God, I'm now going to have to try to remember it off the top of my head now.
You could share some links with us
Israel
later.
Regardie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His books are, if you're a sociologist and I was to say to you Haralambous, right, when you go through university, the one book that every sociologist needed was Harold Lambus, because he was able to put into a nutshell everything that the curriculum had. Well, Israel Regardie is the Harold Lambus of Hermeticism.
Yeah.
He's able to sort of point out the major pieces. And you'll find that one on there as well.
Yeah.
It's a big book. It's a large file, but you can download it, and it's copyright free. As most Hermeticists, we don't put copyrights on things. We don't trademark. We don't control knowledge. We just pass it on.
So that's one of the things that I've noticed when I offer webinars for free, and people say to me, "Why aren't you charging?" And I think, well, if it's information that I think people should have access to, why would I be charging? It doesn't cost me anything, bar my time, to share that information. Because there's that school of thought, isn't there, that says that people don't value what we offer when it's free.
That is, unfortunately, what you say is true. That if you have no price to it, therefore it's not priceless, it's worthless. The reality is the opposite. That what you sometimes offer for free is priceless, because you can't put a price upon it. So people have got used to this sort of capitalist idea that you must pay for quality.
Yeah.
And you don't get it. You get what the author wants you to read, or to hear, or to see. That's their perspective.
Yeah.
And you follow on. But you find it doesn't work for you, so you buy the second volume, or the part 2, or the next version.
Yeah.
So you're in that cycle where all you're doing is just paying money for old rope.
Yeah, yeah.
Which you can't unthread.
and there's quite a lot of books out there that replicate each other, which is interesting, and being able to
which I might add,
disguise
has the
those.
same mistake in it.
Yes. Regarding circles. Yes. So...
On way. Sorry, that was a hint, but never mind.
Bumble. The next question that I've got for you is, out of curiosity, what is on the cards next for you as a scientist?
To keep going, to keep learning, to keep developing, finding answers to questions I probably had 30, 40 years ago. So I'm now in my 60s, so there's things that I've been hunting answers to which have eluded me. So that would be a continuation of a lifelong theme, knowing full well that I will never achieve everything in a lifetime. But that's okay. It is what it is.
So I have one thing that I'm curious about, and possibly some of the listeners might be. If somebody's sat at home listening and they think, I would like to be a hermetic scientist, is that possible?
It's possible for anybody. It's your birthright, in a sense. Knowledge is something to be gained and attained and improved upon. So anybody can do that. Again, go back to Israel Regardie. Start there. He will give you pointers, ideas, concepts, directions to go into. How to attune yourself, how to quieten and still yourself, how to develop your physical senses so that those extra aspects of extrasensory perception from those 5 senses can develop because of the soft antennas that are in your brain called the dendrites, the connections between brain cells.
Yeah.
They receive information. 99.9% of the time we ignore it.
Yes, we
and
do.
just see it as noise. But it's there.
Mind you, we have a lot going on that distracts us from the noises that we should be paying attention to, if you think about it now, don't we? And
there's no ulterior motive other than for you to spend your coin. That's primarily what our world is about, coin.
Yeah, yes.
You are a commodity to be capitalized upon, either through your labor or through your expenditure. A company is measured, its success of a company is not measured by how many satisfied customers it has, but what is its profit margin.
Yeah, very much so.
What is the dividends that go into the shareholders?
Yeah.
The fact that its products might be crap and people are dissatisfied, the point is that people are still buying it because there's nothing else.
Yes. Yeah.
Is the way to do it. Everybody sort of has this idea that the governments are trying to take over everything and whatnot. No, they're not. It's companies.
Yeah. Make the profit
corporations.
margin. Yes.
Yeah. They're the ones that are taking over. We talked about Belvia before. Yeah. That's a big company called Arla. That's holding. They have connections with Nestle.
Yes.
Which is a big corporation which holds hands of many of the products that we use.
Well, certainly, I don't think a lot of people realise who Arla owned or supplied, and there's probably companies on the list that weren't shared. But yes, sometimes I think what we're trying to say to anybody who's listening, who thinks, which rabbit hole have we gone down? It's really just asking you to tap into yourself and think about, what am I listening to? What are the messages? Am I listening to the messages that are natural, or am I succumbing to whatever my TV's telling me? And obviously we might be coming out of the TV at you at this moment, and you might say, well, that's a bit of a conundrum, because I can hear you from my TV.
Well, isn't it?
Yeah, and social media. But I think it's about allowing yourself to be real and say what feels authentic. And if it doesn't feel right, sometimes that's our way of knowing, look at it again.
How easy is it to contact me?
Hard. You had to contact your wife.
Yeah, she messaged me because I don't live on my phone.
Yes.
I have a phone, I have a smartphone, so it's convenient when I want to use it as a tool.
Yes.
I don't live on it.
Yeah. But then I suppose we've got to acknowledge, haven't we? We're walking around constantly, if our phone's turned on, with the Bluetooth's possibly on, so we're within the electromagnetic field of that phone. Mine's not brilliant, it is quite annoying at times. I have to put it next to thing if I want it to airdrop or anything like that. It doesn't seem to have a large sphere. Whereas some people, if I went on now and I looked for Wi-Fi, I would get everybody's phones downstairs in the pub.
Right.
Because so they're sending out that field of Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, depending. But I remember years ago, this would have been a good 13 plus, possibly longer. You used to go into the pub and you used to be able to turn your phone on to the old Bluetooth, and it would tell you whose phones were switched on in the pub, and people would have their phones named, and you could actually send information to them via the system. That got closed down a couple of years afterwards. But I remember on pre-deployment training, we were going out to Iraq, and the guys, the signallers, had come on, and they wanted to demonstrate to us how our phones were letting us down because of the security backdoors, and they were putting people's phone information up on the screen just to prove you think you're safe. No, you're not. Your phone's open to everybody to read. I think we're a little bit better now, but there's still that capacity that we haven't got them locked down. And so we're open to that energy, aren't we?
We are. Even when you shut your phone down, it's still connected. The battery is still running the system underneath because it's listening or waiting for that push to start up again. So you are still connected to the radio masts where your provider is sending the signal. So you can be followed, you can be traced. So certainly if you're a soldier now, do not take your phone into the front line because the enemy knows exactly where you are, and probably because of a lack of security, he knows who you are.
Yeah.
And he knows probably where your family are.
There was a spate, wasn't there? I know we're going off down a mobile phone rabbit hole here, but there was a spate where people's phones were being turned back on again, and particularly iPhones at the time, so it was the early iPhones, and there was a conspiracy theory about who was doing it, and it may well have just been a fault with the phone. So, but I do remember we were away at the time because we'd handed our phones in, and people had found their phones had come back on again, despite the fact that they had been switched off. So it's just to be mindful that when we are sitting still, where can we put our phones, and remove the distractions, turn the notifications off. Do we need them? I don't think we do.
Just shut the phone down.
Yeah. Turn it off, put it in a box.
Can I encounter a sort of a story?
Yeah, of course.
What happened to me? When I went into the British Army, I was sufficient enough to go to Sandhurst to go into officer training. I came out of officer training, joined my regiment at Hythe in Kent. My first port of call as a second lieutenant was the Falklands. Mm-hmm. Now I was in the Reaving, which is electrical and mechanical, so we were there primarily as a support. But, and this shows how short-sighted some people can be and how clever others can be to manipulate a situation. Mm-hmm. We had with us the Welsh regiment, the Welsh Guards, as well as the paratroopers. I was affiliated with 2 Para, and we were there to assist and to support for them. Interestingly enough, I ended up being a frontline soldier under the most extraordinary conditions because they were using radios, which back then was in the 1980s, early 80s, were analog, not digital. So there wasn't really any base encryption system. And every went and fled, we would hear some Welshman come over to say they just eyeballed such and such and such at such a location. You need to take that target out to be able to progress. And it was false. Nobody realized that there is a large contingent of Welsh immigrants in Argentina.
Oh, yeah.
And they were radioing across onto our lines to produce disinformation to get us to move in a direction.
Yeah.
So, as the front line moved, yours truly here, plus his unit, had to skirmish along with them with a hard line.